Hi, everybody. I just wanted to go over a couple of things with you regarding the classical conditioning homework. I know some of you really struggled on this homework, and so again, I think it's kind of important to go over it, especially you guys have a test coming up, so I thought you might want to kind of see what you're doing right or wrong. So we're just going to go over the first couple of questions that were on your homework and determine what those different stimuli and responses are, okay? So, the first one was Brad and Angie fell in love one summer when Brad used to bring his golden retriever to play in the park where Angie liked to jog. The sight of Brad causes Angie to get butterflies in her stomach. Oh, okay. So today, as Angie ran in the park, she saw a Labrador retriever and she immediately experienced the butterflies again. So identify what is the unconditioned stimulus. So remember, unconditioned means like untrained. We didn't have to put any connection. It just happens. So an automatic, basically an automatic, something that happens automatically to a stimulus. So the stimulus is she saw Brad, right? Seeing Brad brings her the butterflies. So the unconditioned stimulus is seeing Brad. That makes the unconditioned response the butterflies in her stomach. And remember, whatever our unconditioned response is going to be the same as the conditioned response, okay? So that brings us, though, to the conditioned stimulus. Now, this is something that goes along with something that hasn't been trained. The Labrador, right? So the Labrador Retriever would be the conditioned stimulus, and the conditioned response again, butterflies in her stomach. So again, I went over that one kind of fast, but let's go on to, I guess there's one more question with that. So the butterflies she experienced stopped after they broke up, right? She now can see Labradors and it doesn't produce any kind of butterflies in her stomach. That is because extinction took place, okay? So let's go on to the next one. This is one that I've been using this vignette for years, and people really get messed up on it, but I think it's a really good one to really learn from, okay? So a few years ago, the telephone rang with the news of my grandfather's death. Then my uncle died, and again the news was telephoned. A few days later, the tax department phoned to tell my mother that she owed $3,000. This person really is not having great luck, right? They're losing people, they're owing IRS money. Whenever she heard the phone after that, I felt a sense of fear and panic. Since then, of course, I have heard the phone ring many times, and gradually my sense of fear and panic has reduced. Although occasionally I still react with fear and panic to the sound of the telephone ringing. Identify the unconditioned stimulus. Okay, so the first part is what is not trained. Now, a lot of people end up putting the ringing of the telephone. But does the ringing of the telephone, usually, unless you've had all of these things happen, that's not what makes us sad or upset or feared or panicked, right? It's actually the bad news that makes us have those feelings. So the bad news would be the unconditioned stimulus because, again, it's not trained. And then the unconditioned response would be fear and panic. A lot of you did get that one right. So then we go on to what is the conditioned stimulus? Well, again, that bad news was the unconditioned. And so it has now been paired or connected to the ringing of the telephone, because now every time the telephone rings, we're afraid that more bad news is coming. So the conditioned stimulus is now called, or is really now the ringing of the telephone, and the conditioned response, again, fear and panic. So although occasionally she still reacts with fear and panic to the sound, even her friend's phone would produce this reaction. What is this? It would be stimulus generalization. So it is now any phone call produces these feelings, okay? Okay, this is another good one that I will go over with you, and then I think I'm hoping you guys will have the general idea here. So Bob was given tickets to a series of concerts devoted to the works of Beethoven. Bob enjoyed the first concert and decided to continue to go to the series. Halfway through the second concert, Bob developed a bad allergic reaction. He didn't realize he was allergic to the fur of the coat worn by the lady sitting next to him. Unfortunately, this lady also had tickets to the series of concerts, so Bob sat next to her at each concert. And each time, except for the first one, it was too warm. The lady didn't wear the fur coat. Every time after that, she wore the fur coat. And each time, the fur elicited Bob's allergic reaction. Shortly after the concert series was over, Bob was traveling home for midterm break when Beethoven's Fifth Symphony came on the car radio. After listening for a few minutes, Bob developed an allergic reaction. So let's go back to the unconditioned stimulus. What didn't need to be trained? Well, the fur coat, he didn't have to train himself or be trained to have an allergic reaction. The fur coat elicited it, right? So the fur coat would be your unconditioned stimulus, and your unconditioned response is the allergic reaction. So then, going on, he's driving and he hears Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and he has another allergic reaction. So now the music has been paired with the presence of the fur coat. I know, crazy, isn't it? So Beethoven's music is now what we call the conditioned stimulus, because it just kind of goes along. It's like in Pavlov's experiment, it's kind of like the bell being rang with the food being presented, right? So Beethoven's music goes along with the fur coat. So Beethoven is the conditioned stimulus, and again, the conditioned response is having another allergic reaction. So Bob took a break from the concert series, and eventually his reaction to Beethoven stopped. This is an example of extinction. Okay, I hope this helps you just get a better grasp. I know we could go over all of them. We're not going to today, but I hope that this helps you have a better understanding. Remember, unconditioned is really like untrained. The dog is presented with the food, it automatically salivates, okay? It's something that usually has to do with, honestly, like our reflexes, like salivation, blinking, startle reflex, all of those kinds of things. But they're things that we do not have to be trained to respond to. They just happen, okay? That is going to be the unconditioned stimulus. And then whatever the response is to that, of course, is the unconditioned response. Okay, I hope you guys have a great day. I will follow up in a little while with the operant conditioning video to kind of go over a couple of those. I hope you guys do well.